Welcome to the Odds HQ NBA betting preview video for Thursday, September the 3rd. I'm Ian Cameron. We cash in with Miami +5, winning outright in Game 2 in crazy fashion down the stretch, the last 20 seconds of that win against Milwaukee. Unbelievable. I mean, I've got to rant just a little bit. I'm happy to have cashed with Miami. I hope some of you did as well that watched the video yesterday. I'll take the win. Glad to see it happen. But the officiating farce that was the last 20 seconds of that game was a disgrace. Absolute disgrace on both sides. The foul called on Goran Dragic was, I think, a bad call and shouldn't have been called. And it felt like after that call was made and Chris Middleton hits the free throws and ties the game, that they made the call at the other end on Giannis Antetokounmpo fouling Butler with no time left on the clock or right before the clock hit zeros as a makeup call because they kind of thought they got it wrong with Dragic at the other end of the floor, calling him for a foul. It looked like a makeup call all the way because the call on Giannis was even worse. Just absolutely brutal. I mean, at some point, if you're a ref in this league, you got to step aside, let the players play, let them decide it, for crying out loud. It's the playoffs, for goodness sake. Let them decide it. And unfortunately, two very dubious calls in the last 20 seconds of that game marred what was otherwise a fantastic, competitive, thrilling game that went down to the wire. Back and forth. It was a great basketball game. And unfortunately, what are we talking about today just as much as the game and the end and the result and the fact Miami played so great for most of that game? What are we talking about instead? That maybe the Bucks got hosed or that the officiating was just absolutely lousy in the last 20 seconds. And that shouldn't happen, not in the NBA playoffs. You shouldn't have a situation where the officiating's so bad that it overshadows everything else about the game. And unfortunately, that's what we saw with the Heat and the Bucks in Game 2. Nevertheless, Miami does win outright. They deserve to win the game, certainly cover the number. They did that. Happy about that. Let's move on to Thursday. Look, I wish I could come on here and say I love these two games from a betting standpoint. I don't. But every day I come on here, give you a betting preview video and an article accompanying it as well at odds.com. And we're going to do that today, even though I don't feel strongly about this card or either game on it. But we're going to go to the Western Conference, I should say, semifinal. Game 1 taking place tonight between the LA Clippers and the Denver Nuggets. It is the LA Clippers taking money here in this game. We've got the LA Clippers 9-point favorites, the total 223 here in this game number 1. And it has been just a steady, consistent flow of money for the LA Clippers in this game. You can understand why. You can fully understand why. We know what Denver went through in the first round. They went through an up and down, back and forth, roller coaster ride of emotions, 7-game series against the Utah Jazz. Wrapping up with a Game 7 that was, took a lot out of you physically, took a lot out of you mentally, emotionally, everything. Denver with the huge lead after the first half. Utah making a rally and tying the game in the fourth quarter. And then the Denver Nuggets having to hang on essentially for dear life at the end in a crazy final sequence to that game. So Denver hung on for the win. You got to give them credit. Their defense finally showed up later in that series. Their defense was better in Game 6, and it was really, really good for extended parts of Game 7, especially the first half. I mean, they put the clamp down on Donovan Mitchell, who only had a couple of points going into halftime. He did come to life, and he did everything in his power to, bring Utah all the way back to win that game. He had a good second half performance, but still, it was a much better defensive game from the Denver Nuggets. But this we know, and this is why the Clippers opened 6-point favorites in this game and are now 9-point favorites. I didn't even get the best number with the Clippers. I actually laid 7 with them. It had already moved from 6 to 7. I jumped in at -7, and now it's up to -9. This is the mother of all bad spots for Denver. I mean, they're coming off this 7-game series against Utah, and now you got to turn around 48 hours later and play Game 1 against a team that is going to challenge you defensively a whole hell of a lot more than the Utah Jazz did. And when I see a post-game interview on Sports Center with SVP following Game 7 with my fellow Canadian Jamal Murray, who was absolutely breathtaking and amazing in that series, when I hear him in an interview say, we're playing on Thursday, it's less than 2 days away, wow, that's a bummer. That's not a bet on quote by any stretch of the imagination from a guy that has to be going in this series for the Denver Nuggets if they're going to have a shot to upset the LA Clippers. He's basically telling you right there, as plain as it can be, we're going to be gassed. We're going to be in a situation where we feel we might be sluggish. We might be just absolutely still feeling the effects of this barn burner of a 7-game series we had against Utah. And you got to think he's probably right. I don't know how you can expect a great game from the Denver Nuggets here tonight because you played 7 games with Utah, no turnaround time. You're playing 48 hours later. The NBA wants to get these series going as soon as possible. And now you're going to play a game that if you don't have your shooting legs, if you don't have your energy level where it needs to be against a team that can dig in defensively like the LA Clippers can, that could be some trouble. So it was a purely situational bet I made on the LA Clippers here. I got it at 7, and I still didn't even get the best number, -7.5. And that's why I'm telling you now that at -9, I cannot take Denver. I would not endorse Denver at any number in this game. I'm just too worried that this is a really, really poor, really, really rough spot for them coming into this game against the LA Clippers, who are rested. They've been off for 3 days. And say what you will about the Clippers defense, which struggled for most of the series against Dallas. But in Game 5 and Game 6, the 2 games they won back-to-back to close out the Dallas Mavericks, that was better Clipper defense for sure. Much better from them at the defensive end of the floor. Holding Dallas to 38 of 85 in the Game 5 win, and even better than that in Game 6, 38 for 90 shooting the basketball were the Dallas Mavericks in that 111-97 victory for the Clippers. It was the first time in the series that the Clippers had held Dallas below 100 points. So good news for the Mavericks, for the Clippers rather. They're getting their defense back on track, and that defense should even get better because Patrick Beverley, who missed the majority of that series against Dallas, he looks like he's ready to make his return. He's had enough time to rest that calf injury that he suffered in that series, and he's looking like he'll be on the floor and making his Clippers return tonight in Game 1 of this second-round series against the Denver Nuggets. So great news for them defensively because he is one of their best defenders, without a doubt. He gets after it. He's in your face. He contests shots. He doesn't give you very much an inch of space, an inch of breathing room, and that's why you would appreciate the kind of defense Patrick Beverley can bring a basketball team. So anyway, when it's all said and done, I lean to the Clippers. It's still at -9, but I'm worried the number's getting a little carried away. I mean, 6, even 7, 7.5, now 9, but I would still only look toward the Clippers. Maybe you also consider them in a first half or first quarter. That maybe Denver, especially out of the gate, going to be really, really sluggish. And I wouldn't talk anybody out of looking at LA Clippers first quarter and LA Clippers first half in this game as well. But I'll still make it an official play even at the current number. Again, you're getting the worst of the number a little bit. But the LA Clippers, certainly from a situational perspective, they're in a good spot. It's a brutal spot for Denver. LA Clippers getting Patrick Beverley back to this already pretty good defensive team. It didn't look like a good defensive team at times against Dallas, but they played a lot better in the last 2 games to close out that series. And now they get Pat Bev back. That's going to be trouble, I think, for Denver. It's well trouble that Jamal Murray struggled in every meeting against the Clippers this year, and they need Jamal Murray to be playing at a high level. I know they have Jokic, and I know they have Gary Harris back now. Michael Porter Jr. is capable offensively, but Jamal Murray's the guy that stirs the drink for Denver. And he kind of struggled against LA head-to-head, the Clippers, during the regular season. So I think it sets up well for the Clippers. Again, we're not getting as good a number now, but still, the only way I could go from a side perspective here, in Game 1 of this series, Western Conference Semifinal, LA Clippers -9, against the Denver Nuggets. I'll use that for the Odds HQ Thursday NBA betting preview video best bet for Thursday, September 3rd. I'm Ian Cameron. Thank you for watching. Reminder to check out odds.com every day for great sports betting content, as well as the Odds HQ YouTube channel daily for live shows and videos to help you pile up the profits. Enjoy the NBA action on Thursday. I'll be back with you tomorrow on Friday for another Odds HQ NBA betting preview video.